Guys, Emilia, thanks so much for having me here. Appreciate it. We've been talking about it for some time, so I'm glad to finally join you here. So my name is Ron. I am the owner of onehourprofessor.com and a portfolio of 7 different websites. And I basically got started in this online business area in I'd say about 2013-ish. In my own entrepreneurial endeavors. Previous to that, I was working in marketing for 7 years and did sales for 6 years. So yeah, I've been working for quite some time, and I've had quite a bit of success just with my portfolio of websites. It's gone really well, and yeah, that's kind of my story.
So you have an MBA, right?
I do, yeah. I always gloss over this one part. So aside from the online business stuff, so I have an MBA. I had gotten that in marketing, and I also still teach at a number of different colleges just as an adjunct part-time whenever they have classes available, just because I frankly kind of enjoy it. I just kind of like teaching people different things, and I think it kind of keeps me sharp. So I do that part-time as well, but I could probably leave it, but I don't really see a reason to. It's just something I enjoy.
So the question that follows then is, now seeing what you do with your business online, do you regret the time that you spent going to college and paying for in time and money that MBA?
That's a really good question. I wouldn't say that I regret it. So here's my view on education, right? So my bachelor's, MBA, all this stuff, I see it now as a good insurance plan. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but entrepreneurship is never guaranteed to anybody. It doesn't matter how smart you are or how much money you have. Doesn't matter. None of that matters. What matters is succeeding. And that's not easy to do with entrepreneurship. So for me, I basically was getting my MBA, number one, because I knew I could teach if I had my MBA. You can't do that with a bachelor's. So I would say in that regard, I've kind of already paid for my MBA through my teaching. Not that my student loans are gone, of course, because why would they be? I've still got some of those, but the point being is I probably, if you really looked at the return just through teaching, I've probably pretty much paid for it. But I just looked at it as an insurance policy for myself, because I thought, I'm going to do this entrepreneurship. Like I said, nobody owes you anything. So you can either make it, sink or swim. But if I make it, great. If I don't make it, hey, worst case scenario, I got an MBA. I had a lot of experience, and I can always fall back on it too. So yeah, I wouldn't say I regret it, though. I do question, the programs that I went through was kind of frustrating because they mostly focused on traditional marketing stuff and not digital, when the whole world was transitioning over and already in that transition to digital. So it was kind of frustrating in my MBA program because I think I had like one class that was digital. I wasn't happy about that, but otherwise, yeah, I don't regret it.
So now though, when you look at what you could do with a couple $1,000s or several $1,000s, you think about what it is that you spent on your MBA. I mean, I'm certain that I could think of other things to do because I went to law school. So okay. I'm certain that I could think of other things now to invest 6 figures into something. I mean, what would you have done if you hadn't gone and gotten an MBA, do you think?
Yeah. So for me, my MBA was a little bit cheaper because at the time, because I was working as an adjunct, I was able to get a discount on some things. I think my student loans at the end of it all, even with the discount with the MBA, was like 50,000 or so, which it's not good, but it's, there's a lot more out there for some people. So I definitely, I regret the money aspect of it now, looking and saying, oh, wow, $50,000, what could I have done with that? But it's so easy to do that now because you can look back in retrospect and say, oh, well, you're going to be super successful as an entrepreneur and you're going to be fine. You can't do that because you don't know in the beginning, So, if I wouldn't have taken my MBA, I don't even know. I feel like that path was kind of destined for me. So funny thing is that when I was I went to Western Michigan University for I think it was 2 semesters and failed out. That was like the traditional college path. Did not work for me, right? So if anybody's watching this thinking, oh, this guy's so bright, like understand, I actually failed out. I didn't do well, too much partying, too much hanging out with friends, that sort of thing. And I felt really, I felt like a failure, right? I failed my parents because I have 2 older brothers. Neither of them went to college. It was actually a really big problem for me personally. So I felt really bad about that. I worked as not an academic advisor, what do they call them? Like an enrollment advisor, right, for a college. And I was, while I was working there, this is before and when I was starting to get my bachelor's, I was on the phone with people always hearing, oh, I wish I went to college. Oh, I wish I went to college. If you hear that 100 times a day, eventually it clicks up there like, wow, I really need to finish college. And that's really what happened to me. So at that point, when I was working at that college, I had gone on and got my bachelor's. And then I got done with it. And near the end of the program, I started to get into marketing. I really started to like marketing. And school was just ending. My bachelor's was ending when I was getting into marketing. I was like, man, I really like this marketing stuff. I need to learn more about it. So then I just thought, hey, I'll just go get a master's because why not? I mean, it was really like a why not decision. And I don't know. I mean, if I didn't go, I hope I would have started down this path, but you really never know. Like nothing's ever guaranteed. Nothing's ever promised. So I don't regret the path in the slightest. You know, in retrospect, it's easy to say, yeah, I wish I wouldn't have gone. And I do wish that I will say this. I wish I started the online business stuff earlier. I started really at 30 was when I really dove in and when I really started to make the money and stuff. Had I have done that at 25, you know, and really focused on it earlier and not screwed around in college and gotten kicked out of the one college and all this other stuff, then I'd probably be in a better place. But I didn't. And I don't want to live with regret. You know, it is what it is. So yeah, it would have been nice, but it's the situation that I'm in and I'm happy where I'm at.
So we go from a college dropout to one of the recent, I guess, maybe ongoing achievements is listing one of your big sites for sale over on Flippa.
Yeah. It was a college dropout, which was, I remember crying on my parents' couch, literally crying because I was the first one, right? And actually, funny thing, my dad was going to pay my whole way. Granted, he never thought I was going to go to a master's. Like no one ever thought that at the time. So I had it made, right? Like it was all set. And then it just like traditional college wasn't for me. So I started to do a lot of online classes because like the way I learn and I like to kind of teach myself things, just the way that I grasp information, it didn't work with lecture style. So if anyone's out there, they're in college and they're like really having a hard time with lecture style, it's not always for everyone. I was never good at the testing. Like I'm sure, you know, law school, there's a lot of testing, memorization, regurgitation, as I call it, you know, just basically spitting up the information that you had to memorize and all that. I wasn't great at memorizing stuff. So I was always much better when it came to here's a problem. Now here's, you know, there's 4 or 5 different ways to solve it. So how do you do that? And then explaining that was the way that I learned better. So, but I was a failure and I didn't, you know, I was down. My thing is too, like I'll always let myself get down for a couple of days. My wife and I have a thing. She does this online business stuff too. And it was like, you know, if you have a bad day, feel free to have a bad day, bad 2 days, 3 days. That's fine. Take the time to relax, but then you just bounce back. You just never give up. And that's, I think, what happened there. And yeah, recently, I mean, at the time of this, I think I got like 20 days left on an auction, but I have a site on Flippa that I'm selling for hopefully 500, 600,000 ish, that sum of money. We're hoping that's where it goes for. Yeah, it'll go for what people are willing to pay for it. But that's one of my bigger sites. So yeah, I'm doing that. And I don't know. It's an interesting journey, right? That we all take. So
it's on an auction. Is there like a floor for, okay, if the site doesn't sell for at least this much, what do they call it? The reserve price something?
The reserve. So the thing is I have it set based on the recommendations from the Flippa team. I have it set to 600,000, but if someone were to offer 550 or 540, it's still for me to determine if I want to do that. I just set it at 600,000 because I'd be like, hey, it's about 38 times monthly revenue. So that's kind of like that'd be good to be there, you know, but I don't know. We'll see where it actually ends up. And I've gotten a few offers. I haven't got an offer up to where I'm hoping yet. And I don't know if I will. And frankly, if I don't get an offer that's, you know, really close to where I am, I may just pull the site down and keep it. I don't really care. You know, it's not a necessity that I get rid of it. I'm just working on another project. So I figured, hey, you know, it might be time to let the baby go. So we'll see if someone's willing to buy the baby for enough. So
is an earnout like possible at all for you? Or is it just like, I got to have cash. I got to have it up front?
I don't like the earnout. The simple reason is when you're doing an earnout, you take a site, you give it to someone else. You no longer have control of anything, and you're relying on them to fix everything and then pay you part of the earnings. To me, that's scary because it's like, okay, that's well and good for the buyer. I understand why they'd want to do that and say like, oh, I'll do 20% up front and then 80% earnout. And I get that. But to me, that doesn't make any sense because I no longer have any control of the site. So if they completely tank everything and totally screw it up, and then all of a sudden just decided to declare bankruptcy or something on money that they owe, I'm out of my money. So I'm not really all that comfortable with that personally. I mean, if someone did like a 80% upfront, 90% upfront, and then 10 or 20% earn out, I'd consider that. But generally speaking, yeah, I'm not really a fan of that model.
So let's say the site goes for 600,000, just as a number, like a nice round number. How much money would you hold aside for taxes? Like, what does your CPA think that you're going to need to pay as far as taxes? I mean, do you know how this asset will be classified in your tax
I do.
returns?
So from my understanding, so I'm not. I have to
No,
get to
there's
it.
no
Yeah.
expert advice. Don't follow
Okay,
any
yeah,
of
yeah.
this.
I'm
We're
not
just
a CPA, all this and that. But from my understanding, here's my understanding. So this would be considered, based on what I've been told, a long-term capital asset
yeah.
because I had built it and it's been around for some time. So basically, if it sells for under 500,000, or I don't know I think it's the profit. So after the flip a fee,
So
right?
the growth, right?
The gross amount that I would get if it's under 500,000, from my understanding, I would owe 15% of that to the government. If it is over 500,000, I mean, to $1 million. I don't know what the brackets are, but over 500,000 for me, because I'm not going to go much further than that. It could be up to 15 or up to 20% rather. So from my understanding, that's that and that. And then the Flippa fee, and why I went with Flippa, they're charging me 5% when other platforms are charging 10, 15%. And something can be said with, oh, those people get you higher multiple and this, that, and the other. But I mean, I feel like I'm reasonably good at negotiating. I'm not completely new to this. I've already sold a site on Flippa. I understand what multiples are, what the site is, what the asset is, and I don't have to get rid of it. So for me, it's like, well, I'd rather just kind of try my chops at the negotiating and see where it goes from there.
I guess the only risk of putting it on Flippa versus some of the other maybe bigger brokerage sites is somebody coming in and because people go to Flippa basically to steal ideas. And but if you have a big site, you think, okay, who's really going to go and copy like 10,000 pages, or 10, just like the idea, that's one thing, but then to go and actually duplicate and redo all of your work, it just seems really unlikely at that point.
Yeah, my thought is, and I've shared it publicly, the URL, I haven't, and I know that you already know this. I don't talk about it I don't disclose it here because I know these are recorded and archived, so I don't disclose it here. But if you're seeing this right now, I don't know when you're going to post this, Emilia. They will probably be able to see it on Flippa. It's one of the higher end sites. But basically, my thought of that is this. So I actually have the site publicly available, URL, you can see it all. And the reason is this. I've got, around 3,000 pages on that site. So it's going to take you a long time to catch up there, number one. Number two is that I really do want to get rid of this site. I'm at that point to where I really do want to get rid of it. So if somebody, let's say someone today, and there's competitors, there's a lot of competitors that there wasn't when I started anyway. That's just how it is. And I feel like that's kind of any website. So let's just say that someone sees it today and they're like, I'm going to go copy this site and do this, that, and the other. Okay, good luck, because it's still going to take, from all my experience with all my sites, it takes about 8 to 10 months to see anything in Google nowadays anyway, because of the sandbox. So by the time that you finally get it up and you're getting some ground, I'm probably going to be gone anyway. And this site also, the other thing is the link profile for this site compared to any competitors is very strong. I've got links from like Department of Justice, from different prisons, all these different things that I was a big mover in this area and was really able to capitalize and not monopolize it. That's not the right word because there's other ones out there, but really was able to make a big splash in the area first off. So it's going to be hard for anyone. Not to say anyone, no one could ever compete in it, but at the same time, I understand where it's at, how strong it is. I'm not all that worried about it. So
this could be a good year, though, if you were to sell it. I guess in 2021, most likely we'll be looking at is a good year to potentially look at taking some capital losses, if that is even possible. You say, okay, how do I offset what I pay? The setting it up so that maybe unloading some things that are less valuable, or even maybe mistakes or bad ideas. I mean, to try to offset what it is that you pay in capital gains.
Yeah. It's been, the thing is, I've had some good expenses this year because I've been working a lot on my personal brand, the 1 Hour Professor one. So I've been working not just on my blog, but also YouTube, right? So I've been kind of all over the place there, and I've been focusing a lot there. So I've had a lot of expenses that have come through with that. But yeah, this site for me, I'm just not that focused on it anymore. And honestly, it's probably not the best year to sell this thing because of COVID, because any site that's in this niche would have been impacted a little bit by that. But the idea, because right now it needs kind of a content refresh. Someone needs to do a content audit, go through all that. The idea of doing that is like sticking pins in my eyes. I have no interest in it. And like I said, if someone isn't willing to pay what it's worth, I will stick those pins in my eyes, but I'm really hoping that I don't have to. So that's kind of the way that I'm approaching it. And I'm just I'm over it, like it was great. It was awesome, really cool, but I'd rather just kind of take, like I said, if I can get 500,000-600,000, whatever it is, take that asset or take that money, take it away, put it into other assets, pay off the house, that sort of thing. And then just not really stress about money nearly as much because, hey, a lot of things are paid off and we're in a pretty good place. So just to have that big exit. I feel like anybody that's going to really make, have a lot of success is going to have at least one big exit to kind of ease their mind of a lot of the burdens that they have. And then they can, build something else up. Because my wife and I, we live pretty modestly, like I'm still driving around. I don't even know what year it is, like 2010 Toyota Camry. I'm not like balling or anything. People probably think maybe
your Lambo in the garage.
Yeah, exactly. I don't do any of that. Like we have a nice, it's a nice house. The car's nice. Everything works. Everything's great. But I'm not like one of those people that's going to be throwing money all over the place. That's just not me. So,
well, the reason I brought up the tax point or that issue is because I think a lot of people look at the exits they see people going on about on YouTube, like, oh, hey, 6-figure exit. And then, whether people get excited about running off and selling their sites, but they also forget potentially that the government is going to want a portion of that, depending on how you deal with it, how that plays out. And that can actually change. Ultimately, I'm going to put up my air quotes, like the multiple that you actually take home in your pocket. You say, oh, I'm going to sell it for 45x, but then really what you probably take home is closer to 25, 30. And then whether or not you want to sell, ultimately you say, okay, I want to have this much money in my pocket, but that also changes where it is that you need to sell the site for to be able to put that in your pocket to walk away. And just, it's not very often talked about. People don't say, oh, well, I paid 20% of this in taxes.
Yeah. I used to, and also the fees, right? With the brokerage fees. So yeah, for me, if it's 500 or under, we're looking at 20% taken away between brokerage and tax. If you're looking at 500 or over, it's 25%. And I'm going to look at that because there's a certain point to where it actually makes sense to sell it for $499,999 versus, 505,000 or something like that. There is a point. So I'm going to look at that too. Seeing whatever deal or whatever offers I get. But yeah, that's a real thing. And the multiple is the way I look at it. So there's two parts of this. So the multiple is really just like, so let's say you get 30 times monthly revenue, right? That's just saying, okay, in 30 months, based on where the site is right now, is it going to be making the same? That's basically what you're betting. For me right now with this site, do I think 30, 35, 40 months, whatever it would be, do I think it would be the same? No, I actually think that it needs a content refresh. I know that. And I just don't want to do it. It's really what it comes down to. So I think that's one way to look at it. And the other thing that, because you just brought up a good point. So some people will look at the multiple and then they'll say, okay, I exited for 35x. And, let's say they're making 10,000 a month. They walk away with what they think is 350,000 and then they got to take out taxes, yada, yada. So that money that comes out in taxes, you do have to remember that if you keep the site, you still also have to pay those taxes. And usually you will be paying more in taxes because it's based on revenue that you're making monthly, which is based on your yearly income and not based on long-term capital gains. So that can be a tax rate of 25, 30, 35%, depending on where you're at. So that's kind of another thing to think about with that is, okay, well, if I hold it, but you are actually usually going to pay higher taxes that way anyway, depending on how much the site's making. So it's not surprisingly a little bit complicated, but when you do the math, it really depends on, where you want to be with the site and everything. And at the end of the day, I just don't want to be doing what I have to do for it right now. So.
I used to work when I was a lawyer. I worked with experts and professionals a lot because I'm not a CPA, right? I'm not an accounting expert at all. But usually, what we would do is we would go to them before we did something versus going to them afterwards, because that's usually when people are like, oh, I just did this. Now I need to go to my CPA to fix it for me. So just for people who are thinking, okay, I want to sell, is this a good idea? It could be a good time to make an appointment and just spend that money, for an hour or two and have them go over it and then give you some So it's not for you, because I'm sure you've already done this or at least thought
Yeah.
about it. But for people who are thinking, okay, I really want to work up to selling, is this a good idea? That's a great time to call your CPA or get one,
Yeah.
and then have them go through it and say, maybe 2020 is not the year. Maybe 2021 is the year. And you could also plan to reduce the capital gains, hit by taking care of some of these other assets that you've been wanting to unload in your portfolio too, that you could sell at a loss and then balance some of those out.
Yeah. Yeah. That, whatever your CPA charges an hour, 100, 150, 200, whatever, well worth it. Like, don't be one of those people who's just guessing. I already talked to my CPA. That's how I know all this stuff. So, yeah, that's how I was able to tell you, this is what they told me and everything. And I kind of had an idea, but nothing's ever figured out until you've actually done it. So, but, yeah, I don't know, but I definitely recommend that anybody who's thinking about it, talk to a CPA, especially if it's a decent size exit. Doesn't even, even if it's, 10, 20, 30,000, you should talk to a CPA first to make sure that you understand what to expect. So, and plus that's a business write-off. So why wouldn't you?
So I'm going to shift gears. And as I understand it, I think you bought Matt Parr's YouTube course at some point.
I did. Yes.
What did you think of it? Because I get tons of his ads. And
everyone gets his ads. It's actually ad inception. So if you go to watch his video, you'll see his ad before his video.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and then during it pops up, they're like, and then this thing,
Yep.
and you're like, it's all Matt Parr all the time. What did you think of his product?
So I'll be realistic with Matt Parr. So I do not like his sales tactics, personally. I do not. He rubs me the wrong way, and I talk about this sometime on my site. I am an affiliate with his course. Even he has an affiliate program, I'm an affiliate, and I do even say it. I don't like his sales tactics because it's the very like textbook. We have to do this and we have to kind of take it away in limited time and all these things that, maybe it's just because I'm in marketing and I'm sure they work for him, right?
Artificial scarcity, fear of missing out.
I'm not a fan of that. I'm really just not a fan of that. Like I had my course on a scarcity model and it literally was like, when it was done, I was like, that's it. You're just not going to get the course now. Like, which was maybe a little dumb, and I've stopped that since, and I don't even really have the course now because I'm figuring that whole stuff out. But I don't like his approach to the sales stuff personally, but he's doing it and it's probably working. So I'll give him all the credit in the world. In terms of the course itself, I actually have to say that I think that the course is much better than the sales tactics. I genuinely like the course. He talks a lot about, my one issue with it, my one gripe is that he talks a lot about vidIQ and using that for YouTube keyword research. Quite frankly, I didn't find that to be very reliable. vidIQ YouTube keyword research. I mean, for what it's worth, I've never found a tool to be reliable for YouTube keyword research. I don't know what's different between YouTube and Google, but for some reason there's a big disconnect, and I've never found anybody to create a really good keyword research tool for YouTube. I wish someone would. So that would be my only really gripe about it. But I was hesitant, and I thought, my wife and I, she was basically creating this is kind of what my wife focuses on. She's more on the YouTube side than I am, right? She likes that kind of stuff. So she was trying to grow a channel. It was a reaction channel, like these reaction channels where people are just reacting because, she's pretty and she used to do YouTube in Brazil. She got you probably don't know this. She was in Brazil, 2.3 million followers. She had this huge channel. She was doing really well, but it's in Portuguese. Doesn't nearly pay as much. And over time, she kind of just lost the connection there and everything. So she was basically trying to do an English one and wasn't having much success. I was researching. I found him and I thought, you know what, why not? Because he has like a 30-day money back guarantee thing. So I thought, why not? I bought it. And then I was hesitant. I think I definitely knew, he focuses on people who don't really know much about YouTube. I knew a lot about YouTube already. I didn't know everything, but I knew a lot about it. So for me, there was a lot of information there that I was like, yeah, okay, of course I know this. Of course, like how to create your videos. Like, yeah, I get that. And here's how to outsource. Yeah, I get that. But the SEO part and the way that he's trying to rank his videos or get his own videos to suggest other of his own, the other videos that he has, I did think that alone was worth the money. So I actually do like the course. I have been in it. And I think it's worth it for a testament of what it's truly worth. After my wife and I took the course. So I think it's like as of right now, I don't know where it is, but I think it was like 500 or 550 bucks or something like that. After we took the course, we created one channel in Portuguese. which was, I'll disclose this one. I won't disclose the English one, but I'll disclose this one. It was focused. It was like makeup and beauty compilation type stuff. And we were able to source the content in a way that skirts all the Creative Commons things and is totally legal. If there's a certain way that he explains in the course that you can do it to make it okay. So we did all that. That particular YouTube channel has like, I don't even remember. Like I reported my income reports, like 300,000 or 400,000 views on the channel, like crazy views. Videos are going viral like crazy, but the problem is it's in Portuguese. So the ad rates are just terrible. Like you just don't make much money. So I think that one last month, I think it made up like $189, which obviously isn't bad, all things considered. And then we also, after we kind of proved what he was saying with that and proved the concept, and I thought, okay, what can we do in the USA or with the English language type deal, you know? So we created another channel, can't disclose that one, but we basically created it. And then that one last month made, I mean, it was somewhere in the $600 range, 600 to 650. So the course already paid for itself. So yeah, I recommend it, and I'll stand by that recommendation. But like I said, if you got to get through the sales tactics, because it's kind of like the grimy, like, oof, like, I don't know. It's cringy to me. He's young, you know, so I'm hoping that as he learns, he'll kind of figure out his voice and stuff. But if he's not changing it, it's probably working. So I'll give him all the credit in the world. And if he's making money and making a community out of it, plus his YouTube channels, good for him, you know?
I mean, the upside though, is that you got into his course and you thought it was valuable.
Absolutely. I personally, that's why, like when I do affiliate recommendations, I'm not going to recommend crap because it's my reputation. So I do think that the course itself is worth the money. Yes, I definitely think so. As long as, I mean, you have to follow along with what he does and you have to take action on it. You're never going to get the course and all of a sudden you're going to be making money on YouTube. That's not how that works. You have to get the course, learn, and then take action on it. And I think the action is where a lot of people, you know, they don't do that. So
you were talking earlier about YouTube keyword research and how the tools you didn't like. So how do you do YouTube keyword research?
Guessing. No, not really, but kind of.
Right? I mean, isn't keyword research all like at some point just guessing?
There's an element to it that is kind of guessing, especially I feel like Google, due to all the different tools out there, I usually will use a tandem of two different ones. I usually use Ahrefs because that's really focused on link build or link content, like how many people have linked to a site. That's where they really focus that on. And then I also use Longtail Pro, which I'm not sure what their calculation metric is, but I'll usually use the two in tandem because I have a lifetime access thing to Longtail Pro. So I'll put them both into the tools and then I'll kind of cross-reference. So if I see both of them have low competition scores, I'm like, hey, let's focus there. So I think you can actually do that in a much more educated way with blogs and sites. I think that's much easier to do. With YouTube, no one has figured out this competitor metric. And I don't know if there's just not enough data available. I've never tried to develop a tool for it. Someone needs to develop the tool. Maybe I should be that person because I've talked about this for so long, but there's got to be a reason, right, that nobody can do it right. I don't know what that reason is because I'm sitting on the outside looking in. But usually when I do it, I'll focus on the auto completes, right? Like how do you look at the results and then answer whatever it is. You could do that. And really it's just creating a lot of different videos around those autocompletes is a good thing. That's really a big way. The other thing that I think is not paid as much attention to, but is going to become much more prevalent in the future, and it's already showing. So you're seeing now, and this never used to happen, that Google is now embedding a lot of YouTube videos in their search results. They never, ever used to do that. So this, I mean, it really started, I don't even know, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago-ish is when they started to do that a little bit, but I feel like I'm seeing more and more of it now. So I do think that there's a correlation to looking at content on Google and terms on Google and saying, okay, this is really not all that competitive on Google, so let's create a video for it on YouTube. And there is sometimes a correlation there to where, hey, it's not competitive here, it's also not competitive here. But that's just kind of an eye test. And the other thing is before you go that route, make sure that you check the Google SERPs, make sure that you check them to make sure that there are videos embedded, because there's nothing worse than like, I'm going to create a video on this and then realizing, oh, it was never actually in the Google search results anyway. So you're not going to have much, with it. So
have you had much luck getting suggested traffic?
Suggested, is that the one?
There's browse. So browse is on the screen, you know, when you go and like you go to your homepage and start looking.
Yeah.
Was your cat trying to say hi?
I'm actually standing today and we're watching this little dog who is a Shih Tzu, and he is a Shih Tzu, if you know what I'm saying. He is a little Shih Tzu. He is really causing a lot of drama while he's been here. We're having problems sleeping. He's just, or she actually, I'm sorry, her name's Bella, is just destroying our house, and she was just growling. So if anyone heard that, so suggest a video. Wait, what was the video?
So browse is when you're on the your YouTube homepage, and then those little squares are there, and suggested is when the video just comes on after.
Yeah, or it's on the right type thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, no.
I haven't either.
Yeah, I've had some success. I've had a lot more success with SEO. No shocker there, because anything I do, I've always led with data and.
Well, it's what we know, right?
It's bloggers, just much easier. SEO. Yeah, so I'm just going to focus on SEO and getting ranked there. YouTube's definitely a very interesting. I mean, I really, really, really pushed hard on it in 2020. You know, I was doing 3 videos a week every single week.
Yeah, but you cracked 11,000 this last year.
Yeah, no, it's working. It's definitely working. But I am 100% burnt out from it. I can tell you that. So I actually, the first week of December, I scaled back to 2 videos a week, and I'm thinking to probably stick to around 2 a week, because some of those are sometimes live, and I can have a guest on like you or whatever, and I actually just like those conversations and to have those connections. It's just kind of fun to me. So I am scaling back a little bit because it was too stressful to really stick to it. But yeah, I don't know. For the most part, when I do it, I do the suggested. I'll look at because I have the vidIQ, the subscription to it. I have the cheapest one now. I'll still look at the keywords and everything, but it's like a grain of salt with all that. It's just not that great. So now, I'm relying a lot more on, I ask my followers, what do you guys need? They tell me, and then I plug it into a tool and say, okay, how can I make this SEO focused? And then I'll just create something that way. And it's working well enough. I don't have a ton of viral videos by any means, but it's really hard. I mean, you got to get a retention time on your videos of 40, 45, 50%, which to get people to watch all the way to 40, 45, 50%, nearly impossible.
You're basically dancing and shaking it and doing.
Yeah, you got to do some outlandish stuff. And me, you're looking at what I do. This is literally my YouTube video.
Look at me. I'm wrapped up in a blanket sitting.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit here and talk because I'm just that level of production and everything else. That's not me. So
you talked about all the work that you put in and you're burnt out on YouTube, and you got to 11,000. Was it worth it?
I think that, okay, from a revenue standpoint, no. And that's probably where I'm having a little bit of a disconnect, because with a lot of my sites and stuff, the more work you put in, the more money you put in, the more time you put in, the more money you make. That's typically how my business model has worked for years, and that's been great. With YouTube, it hasn't been that way, mainly because I was focused a lot on ads in the beginning. I'd have like 4 or 5 ads per video, all this stuff. A lot of people saying, hey, there's too many ads. Hey, there's too many ads. So I thought, okay, let me scale back. So now I have like maybe 2 plus the one in the beginning. So from a revenue standpoint, because I always share this publicly anyway, I think revenue standpoint, I think it's like I make like somewhere between like 650 to 750 a month for my YouTube channel, which isn't bad, but I do pay an editor. So it's like not a break even. I usually walk away with like a couple $100, maybe, whatever. So from a revenue standpoint, not really, because I think that my time was definitely better spent on a site or something like that. But it wasn't just for the revenue standpoint. I really wanted to start building more of a community and really connecting with people and getting a Facebook group, all this kind of stuff that isn't all that easy to do, especially in the online business space. So for me, it was really a focus on that. From that standpoint, it has been successful for sure. I've definitely connected with a lot more people, have a lot more fans, all these people that are actually following me, which is cool. So that makes me feel good. The end goal with it, because people are always like, what is like the plan here? Because it's, it takes a lot of work and such. The end goal is I do want to eventually create courses, and I want to do it in a way of kind of piecemeal courses. So John Dykstra does this.
Yeah.
Kind of like, hey, this course is keyword research. This course is link building. This course is this, because I used to have that granulous, huge course. And it was like people wrestling me like, hey, you know what? I'd buy the whole course, but I don't really need the whole course. I just need this one section. Can I? And then I'd be like, well, I'll just buy it and get a refund then. Cause I didn't know what else to do. So I'd rather just build out, hey, when you start out, here's a course that'll help you, but also here's piecemeal, this. And I think that's a much better way, in my opinion anyway, at this point, of going about it. So that's my plan.
What is the question that you get asked most often?
Probably people, when I talk about my online business stuff and the money I'm making and all that kind of stuff, it probably comes along the realm of how is it possible to do this with display ads? Because most people think that, I use Ezoic now. I used to use Google AdSense. But most people just think it's not really possible to make the type of money that I've been making with display ads. And I would say that would be the biggest thing is like, you really make all that with display ads? I'm like, well, not all of it, but probably 85% of it. I have some affiliates, some other stuff, but majority of it. And people don't seem to understand that. And I kind of like this about display ads. You don't like with display ads. Okay. So an affiliate product, and I'm doing affiliate hardcore right now on 1 Hour Professor. Like that is the business model at this point. I don't even have display ads on there. And I'm making some money with it. And it's really, Emilia, it's so weird because like I'll look one day, I'm like, oh my God, I got a $200 commission. And it like makes your whole day, and then I'll look one day and I blanked. So it's really weird. Yeah. It's very different, it's a very different model, but the display ads really works well because, you're only making, it depends on what area you're in, but maybe 15, 20, 25 cents per click, sometimes less, sometimes more than that. So you're not making much every time that someone clicks, but you're sending, if you get big, you're sending thousands of clicks a day or whatever. And that really adds up. And I like it because it's also diversified, because if you're going to make a lot of money on a site with display ads, you usually just need a lot of traffic. That they go hand in hand. So when you have a lot of traffic, you can make a lot of money. So it's diversified out in the sense that, we just talked about my website in the beginning. I have, around 3,000 pages. Well, not any one of those pages are making me 50% of my revenue. It's really split across a lot of them, which is nice. So that's been a big thing. But probably, that's probably the main thing that I get asked. People get really confused. Like, how is that even possible? Because most people throw Google AdSense on a site with 10,000 page views. It makes them like, $50 a month, if that. And they're like, I don't get it. It's not possible. It's like, yes, it is, but you really have to dive in and go further with it. So
What is something that you wish people would ask you about and you don't very often get to talk about it? Maybe it's something you're passionate about or something that you have a lot of training and experience about, but people are super focused on, what's the best hosting and where should I buy a domain name and how do I do WordPress? Like what's this other goal that you have that people don't ask you about?
It's not really a goal of mine, but I wish that
I said gold, more like gold, not gold, but
okay.
like this other
Got
goal that you have.
Yeah. I would say probably in the sense of like focus on, I don't know exactly what the right word is here, but motivation, determination, and the ability to keep moving forward. There's so many people, I don't get it. I seriously do not get it, but there's so many people that start this stuff out. They'll get 3-4 months down the road. They don't see much success, and we know the end of the story. That's kind of the end of it, right? And then they go back and then they go work at their job for 20 years and they're miserable, but they do it because they can tolerate it, and that's it. I think that that's such a crucial and so incredibly important part of anybody that's going, down this whole journey, is to understand that you cannot quit. Like you just can't quit. And like, if you have it in you to not quit, great. You'll probably be succeeding. I don't know at what level, I don't know how big you'll get
or when.
Yeah. Like it will take a lot of time. You could have, you choose your first niche and guess what? You got into finance, and guess what? That's super competitive. So you're going to have a really hard time. So it really just depends. But for me, I would say like, that motivation, determination stuff, I think is just so crucial. And I don't think, it's not talked enough about by me. It's not talked enough about by anybody, because it's kind of I personally never sell the get rich quick idea. I'm like very much against that, because this is not get rich quick. I actually just had an email earlier that I answered about that. It's not that at all, but it's also, it is tasking mentally to do what we do. I don't think a lot of people understand that it is not easy. There is no, like I said earlier, no one owes you anything. So it doesn't matter, all the things that you do, it's all on you, right, to succeed. And that's all fine and good when you're having good days, but when you're having bad days, like I said, I've been burnt on YouTube lately. I'm not having a great day today. You got to get through that stuff, and you got to be mentally strong enough. And I don't think that's just online business. I think that's any entrepreneur, right? You have to have that certain mentality and that mindset to where you understand, hey, there's bad days, there's days off, there's this, there's that, but I'm going to make it through. So I think that's super, super important. And barely anyone ever talks to me about it. And I think it's because if somebody fails, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to talk about, hey, I stopped. They don't want to talk about that. They just want to talk about, hey, I'm going to create a niche. I'm going to do this. And then, you never hear from them again. You don't hear from them because no one wants to be like, hey, I really screwed up and I didn't do what I was supposed to do. No one wants to say that. So I wish more people would. That's fine. It's okay. You just got to keep moving forward. So,
what's really interesting about that is when you're a small YouTube channel and you're in most cases creating content for people who are around your experience level, which is near the beginning, right? And you make what we might call motivational content or mindset content, and it doesn't go down very well. It performs really badly on YouTube because I think that a lot of people at that stage don't necessarily realize how important that content is. It's not until much later that it is, but at that point, the person who maybe understands the mindset portion of it has moved on. Maybe they're not using YouTube.
They've already given up.
Or the person who's successful on YouTube is like, okay, well, making videos for people who don't want it, right? Who aren't ready for it is why bother doing that. I understand now how important it is, but there's no point in making that. It's like healthy food, right? Like people want McDonald's. It tastes good. They want junk food, and they don't want to hear you tell them like I know I need lettuce. Like I just know it. I'm not interested in your opinion.
It's on this burger. I got lettuce on that burger. No, I know exactly what you're saying. So you want the junk food even though you know it's not good for you is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, and people just don't necessarily appreciate the advice about the junk food. They're like, no, that's not what I want right now. Right now, I want the hamburger, and and I'm going to unfollow you if you serve me the health
exactly food. Yeah or like I want keyword research. That's what I want right now. I don't want to hear about how I may fail. I mean, but that's the thing is like, I don't know, it's weird to me that it's such a faux pas to even talk about it, because to me I mean that's realistic. Like any entrepreneurship, I tell people all the time, hey, you're gonna create a site, you're probably gonna fail on the first one, but that's okay. I give you permission to do that. That's totally fine. I did it multiple times. Just take that, get hurt, fall down, struggle, get back up, go do it again. And you're going to make a mistake. Like my thing is you're never failing as long as you're learning, right? So if someone does something really dumb or they pick a bad niche or whatever, and then they fail at it and they're like, oh God, I'm the worst ever. Yeah, sure. They take a week off. They, have their own pity party, whatever. And then they get back up. Then they realize, hey, you know what? It wasn't really a failure. I just learned that was a really bad niche. And then they move on. And as long as you move on, and as long as you keep going over those hurdles, like I have, like you have, like anybody who has any level of success has, and I still make those mistakes, by the way, but as long as you're willing to do that over and over and over, then you're going to succeed. And that's what I think is so important that nobody likes to talk about. So
it's really interesting if you look at YouTube channels, especially the people who have been around for a while, you see the progression of their content. And eventually it seems like just about everyone eventually turns into mindset.
Yeah.
You see this experience, they've been in it for a long time and then they start creating mindset content. And then people who are new coming to their channels are like, why are you making this garbage? You're not teaching us how to do anything. Yeah. I've seen a couple good friends of mine who are affiliate marketers who create a lot of mindset content now, and a lot of people who come to their channels, it's like this is fluff. There's no substance here, but ultimately it should be a signal to the people who are in the beginning stages, because the people who have made it, we call it made it, that is what they signal as important, and that should be a sign to the rest of us. But it's really hard, because right now I'm on the day-to-day of like, I got to pick this up and put it down over here. And that's my focus.
That's where especially for beginners. And I'm dealing a lot with, so this year I've been focusing a lot more on creating content for the beginners and getting that community. Cause I didn't really before I was just kind of putting out whatever. And you see a lot of that for sure, but yeah, it's no joke. I think that's, I don't even know, maybe 50, 60% of the battle, possibly 70% is the mindset, and the ability to keep moving forward is so crucial and so important. And so many people don't want to talk about it and don't do it, never ask me about it. And that's a shame, because I'd love to encourage people and tell them like, hey, really keep going, because you're going to fail. That happens. Just keep going. So.
Well, I think that's really what that's the differentiator, right? The people who are winning winning versus not are the people who just stuck it out. And, you know, you,
Yeah.
and you're at that stage, you know, we talked to some of the other folks who are, you know, the up like 5 figures and up, you know, how many of them are in their first year or their second year or their third year? I don't know of any of the people I would call, you know, I'm using air quotes like mad right now,
Yeah.
but the big dogs, are any of the big dogs in year 1, 2, or 3? Yet there's this expectation that if you're not a big dog in year 1, 2, or 3, that's a reason to quit.
Yeah, which is silly. I mean, and yeah, it's funny too, because I'll get, you know, because I always do, like I said, I always do my monthly income reports, and I'll like have a site that I built, and like I have a site right now, and I think this month, it's not over yet, but I think this month it'll make like 1,700, 1,800 for the month, purely display ads. And it is in month, I think it's in month 15 or 16. And people who are new are like, how is that even possible? Blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to do that. I can't do that. It's like, well, yeah, I get that. But I've also been doing this, you know, for like 7 years, and I have a full team, and I'm creating, you know, it's great that I'm making that much, but hey, I've also invested $30,000 into this over time. Like, it's different, you know what I mean? So like a total beginner, it's hard to completely connect those, and they have to see it for what it is, and not just, oh, I'm not just a guy who's sitting there. You know, a lot of people right now, and that's fine, this is how I started, they're blogging their own stuff. They're writing everything themselves. They're doing their own templates. They're their own editor. They're their own virtual assistant posting stuff. I have a whole team behind me, you know? So it's much easier for me at this point, because I have the scalability to do what I'm doing and have a team assigned to everything versus someone who's brand new. And yeah, I don't know. It's people need to realize that stuff, that it's not easy, and it takes time. And yeah, the big dogs, any of the, like you said, big dogs, they're not in year 1 or 2. I mean, they've been like, even, you know, there's some people that are doing pretty well. They're in like year 2, or they're talking about it. It's like, yeah, that's great, but you were also in corporate marketing for 10, 15 years, whatever, you know? So like, you got to understand, people come from different backgrounds. You know, someone that's learning, hey, I just learned what SEO is, you know, like they just find out. There's someone else who could also start, and they just left a corporate job of 15 years where they were a marketing director or something. You know, they're probably going to do better than you because they were a marketing director. They know more, you know, they already know SEO. They already know this stuff, but you know, it just depends on the person, but it's just something to consider.
We're getting to the end. You've been a good sport so far, but what would you say was the biggest fail of 2020? The biggest, that didn't work, or
the biggest
mistake.
fail for my business, or the biggest failure just in 2020 in general?
What you feel like sharing, I'll leave it to you, because sometimes that other stuff is important, right? It's a big part of what it is that you will do in 2021 is how some of these things, what happen.
I'd say the biggest fail, and this is probably a problem that I have, the biggest fail in 2020 for me, I told you how I want to do 3 videos a week, every single week on YouTube. I got to December, the first week in December, and I cut back to 2. I hate it whenever I say I'm going to do something and it's what I call a production goal, meaning I'm going to blog post 3 times a week, and I'm going to do it every single week, or I'm going to create 3 videos and I'm going to do it every single week. When I miss my own production goals, that kills me, because that's on me. There's no one else that can possibly blame, no external factors. That's on me no matter what. But it happened because, like I said, I am burnt out. I am straight up burnt out. Now, I was talking to my wife about it earlier. I'm going to take time this next week, probably be pretty useless, thankfully, because I've been burning the candle at both ends for some time, and I've got a team to help me in things and all that, but I definitely need to take a step back and break. I think it's been really hard for me this year personally, because COVID brought about this world in which you're constantly at home, right? Which is fine because I work from home, right? I'm used to that, right? But I never was staying at home as much as I have been. And it was always good because I could stay at home, work, and then get done, and then go with my wife to dinner or go out with friends, take a little break. Those breaks have not been happening. I mean, I can count on, one hand how many times we've done cool things this entire year, which is not okay. So that's been probably the hardest thing for me, because when I'm sitting at home, like, I don't know if you're like this or not, I have a very difficult time just sitting and watching a TV show.
I don't have a television.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I have a really difficult time. My wife loves to binge some stuff. I have a very difficult time. The only way I can do it is, guess what? My laptop is in my lap. because I have this problem where I feel like I have to be productive.
Yeah.
So I would say it's almost a character flaw in the sense that I have to get a little bit more balanced myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm recognizing that towards the end of the year because I am burnt out because I've been working really hard all year. I mean, my wife and I have this rule that, hey, we wake up at around like 8 or 9 a.m. We have to stop work by 8 o'clock. So it's like you have to only put in a 12-hour day. And most people are like, what? That's crazy. That's like, it's tough for me because if I'm sitting there doing nothing, I'm not gonna watch TV. I will play some video games. I like video games a little bit, but I don't do too much of that. I need to do something productive. And building a business, I do love it. And it is a hobby as well as productive. But there does come that point to where you're doing too much and don't realize it. And I hit that point this year without a doubt. So for me, that would probably be my biggest failure this year is that I was working too much. It kind of snuck up on me, kind of got burnt out, and I'm recognizing it and I'm okay with it. And I'm basically saying, hey, like I said, you can have those days or whatever that week and just say, you know what? Not worth it. The mental health stuff is more important. Let's take a step back. Let's enjoy, do what I don't know what I'm going to do because I still got to sit in the house because I'm in Illinois too. So we're like really, really bad on lockdown right now. We've been in for way too long. In my opinion, but that's a whole different discussion. So so that's been my biggest thing this year is I've been struggling a lot with work-life balance because of the situation we've been put in. And I imagine there's probably quite a few people that are dealing with that same thing. I would imagine this year in particular, because it's been tough. So,
I went from working in an office, a professional office versus working at home. And it used to be that I would never work from home, like ever. And I would use the drive to work and then drive home as the transition. So it's like take the work person off and then be at home.
I understand. I already know where you're going with this, but
yep. And so now that no longer happens, right? There's no longer that transformation, that transition. So you're always that work person. You're always on. Mm-hmm. And so then you don't necessarily even realize like what level of adrenaline you might be running or alert, like there's the high alert mode of being on all the time. And your system isn't set up to run like that all the time. You have to find some way to say, okay, I'm going to transition from this to that other so that system can turn off.
Yeah.
Otherwise it never turns off.
Yeah, no. And that's what I've been dealing with a lot of, is just that. And it's always like, okay, well, I got to do one more thing. Oh, I got to do one more thing. Got to do one more thing. And my wife and I just had a talk last week because I wasn't hanging out with her nearly as much as I should have been. And I was the one who realized it and brought it to her attention. And she was like, yeah, I know. She's like, because she understands how I am, so I know I'm probably going to work harder and more than most people in general. Just it's something that I like doing and something I enjoy, but there has to be some type of line and you have to really enforce that and especially with always working from home. But I was just like you, I was working in that full-time job. And that is one of the best parts about a full-time job. If you're at a full-time job now, embrace the fact that you can go to work. Well, not everyone can do this, but if you're in a job that you can, you go to work, you work for your 8 hours, you go home, and that's it. It's gone, and you can stop. When you're in this stuff, you can do that as well, but it's very difficult to be willing to do that, especially when you got like, let's say you have a family, you put your kids to bed, you got an hour, spend time with your spouse or work for an hour, and you talk to your spouse and there's really nothing going on. So, okay, I'll just work for an hour. And then, you do that over and over and over, and it burns you out. It gets to you. So.
You do. And you talk about burnout. That is 100% been the struggle for me. I'll start a new site or start a new project and then just hammer it so hard. You say 12-hour days. Like I'll start, I'll just get up. My bed's back there, roll out of bed.
Yep.
Roll to right here.
I call that my commute. I always joke around like, oh, my commute today was brutal. Cause that is a nice part, but yeah.
And then basically sit here until bedtime.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's brutal. And I've done that too. You can't see it, but I actually got a little walking treadmill now. I just got this thing because I was having issues with my lower back because I was sitting all day doing this stuff. And this year in particular was super hard for me because I was doing YouTube. I was growing my own brand. I've been doing a lot of guest blogging. All this other stuff has really come together and it has really worked. And I am really starting to see results, but at what cost? That's the question. So, that burnout stuff is no joke. And it's just okay to take some time off. And I've literally had to, in my own head, be like, Ron, like I'll be doing something like, oh, I feel guilty for not working. I'm like, I give myself permission in my head. You're okay to turn off the computer and do this tomorrow. Right. Like I've been trying to get better at that stuff.
You're the boss.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've never had burnout and I worked a lot. I've never had it. And I think I have it. So I'm kind of just, I'm coming to terms with it, understanding, like I said, sometimes you fail. I failed here. I'm getting kicked, getting knocked down. I'm going to get back up. And, you know, I'm going to take a little time off first, but I'll be getting back up and getting back into it and putting better rules in place for myself. So.
Well, I'm excited to see you make your moves in 2021. It's actually kind of cool that we get to do this chat here on the 30th of December.
Yeah, it's
then,
right at the end of the year.
Yeah, we can cycle around next year and then see how you did.
We can make it an annual thing. That's what we can do. But yeah, it'll be. I'm actually really optimistic on 2021. Like I said, the first week or two, I'm going to be useless. I'm giving myself permission to do that and really disengage and relax. But once I'm done with that, I will be pushing really hard on my own personal brand, and I think doing some more courses and things that I wanted to do in 2020 that I didn't, and really focusing on that because I just really want to get. I really want to be a big influencer in the online business area. I've had some success there, more than not everyone, but more than most. And I'd like to showcase some of that stuff that I've done. And I like the idea of connecting with people and actually being like, if someone tells me, "Hey, I paid off my house, my mortgage every month because of you, because I made a site because you inspired me." That's super gratifying. And obviously there is money to be made there, but for me, it really is that feel good stuff is really important to me personally. So
awesome. Well, for folks who are watching this or listening to this on the podcast, where should they go to follow you or find out more about you?
Easiest place you can go, it's just one spelled out, onehourprofessor.com. That's my site, or you could just type the same thing into YouTube. You'll find me. I would say that's, the website of the YouTube channel, 1 Hour Professor, is all you really need to do to find me. So
awesome. Well, thank you so very much for being here. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely, Emilia. Thanks for having me.